We released a report recently which talks through how to use visual analytics as a tool in the prevention and detection of fraud and corruption in organizations. Now, where I work specifically is within the forensics field, and it's a very, very useful tool set in actually taking organizations, looking at their data and being able to quite quickly focus on where are their specific fraud and corruption risks. Now, I mean, from an African context, obviously, it is a major, major issue on this continent, the prevalence of fraud, the prevalence of corruption. And what this allows us to do really is to take an existing set of techniques, employ them on data, and very quickly get to results. So I'll give you an example of a client that we're working with, big retail firm that has large-scale card fraud in stores across the country. And what we're able to do is to take different sets of data relating to these transactions. So we'll take the actual transaction location, we'll map it, we'll look at what store it occurred in, we'll look at who was involved in the transaction from a staff point of view. We can look at the prevalence of that transaction over time. And putting that on a map and giving it a size in terms of a dot on the map and giving it a specific color, it immediately focuses our investigative teams or the client's investigative teams in terms of where are the greatest risks at any point in time. There's such an array of tools available. I mean, you can use tools that are off the shelf. We use tools that we develop ourselves. But generally, it's around, we look at the risks. So we would develop a set of tests around red flags in specific areas. So if we take, for instance, a corruption risk, let's look at an example of, you look at round amount payments within financial data often signify a potential issue. Round amount payments to individuals as opposed to vendors. Round amount payments that happen outside of your typical transaction cycle. Round amount payments that happen on a weekend or that would happen on a public holiday would be concerning. So you take those type of tests, push them against a data set and see what results come out. But what we're also saying is that when you deal with big data sets, you're often getting such a big set of results, you need to use visualization techniques to try and narrow yourself in and focus quite quickly on what are the biggest risks and where should you focus your investigative resources very quickly. If you look at the Deloitte business, 3 years ago we had a very small data analytics team. Today it's a massive team, it's more than 100 people. It's a massive part of our revenue and probably one of the biggest growing businesses within the risk advisory space, which is where I play. That means that we hire very different people now. We bring different people into the business with very different skills. Now those skills are very much along the lines of data scientists, statisticians, mathematicians, as well as creative IT solution-minded individuals that are able to take data and interpret it visually. Now, I mean, in terms of doing that, I guess you're only limited really by your imagination in terms of what you can produce. The technology is so advanced, you can really produce any form of visualization. And it's around what makes sense. It's less around creating a pretty picture. And I think often people see that of putting up the results of your test. It's more around creating a picture that is meaningful and that allows you to interpret accurately and interpret with speed and interpret with an element of intuition as a non-data scientist, as a non-statistician, as a layperson in the business. At a glance, you can look at an iPad, see a couple of colors, and you go, okay, that's meaningful.